Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. That's the sound of the fill valve filling the reservoir there intermittently. So I had just replaced the fill valve in June, and now the I think the drain valve or the flapper has a leak in it. They dry out over time, and even faster if you have hard water. So looks like I have to take this apart. And I was just looking online on YouTube, and it makes sense. It's recommended to remove the overfill tube. If you're replacing that, go ahead and replace the bolts. There's depending on your toilet, you could have more than 2 bolts. I think this one has 3. But yeah, every 5 minutes I just refilled the reservoir, and within 5 minutes it had to fill, so it's slowly leaking, and the flapper is very rigid. It's not flexible anymore. So what I've done ahead of time, I thought it was a good idea, is I got one of those cement mixer, the black plastic cement mixer containers right there. Clean that up, and I'll put this back reservoir here in there. Makes sense. So you could just use an old towel, I guess. We'll take that off. Let's take a look in back there. So this fill valve is working, and it's doing what it's supposed to do. It's just that the water is slowly draining out of this, and resetting the fill valve, setting the fill valve to fill. Let's see where it fills up to. Okay, so it's a little bit lower than what it was originally when I replaced the fill valve, but that's what happens when this float gets low. It automatically turns on the fill, and the only way that can drain is through this overflow with a flapper here. One way is if this doesn't work, sort of like a safety here, is it'll overflow in through this overflow tube if this doesn't shut off. But also is that flapper there. So that's where the water is slowly leaking out. Now, I don't know if you can see, there's 1, 2, 3 bolts that have rubber grommets or rubber washers on them. There's also there's a gasket that goes in between the toilet and this reservoir here, and that needs to be replaced too. So to make sure I get this terminology correct, this is the flush valve, which consists of this flapper, and the flapper seats on the bottom portion to create a seal. And then there's a sponge gasket that goes underneath the nut that holds this flush valve assembly from the other side. The gasket goes up over the plastic nut. So let me turn off the shut off, which is something else that I'm glad I replaced because that was not working. So I now have a shut off that works. And drain the water out with a flush, and then whatever's remaining, I just use a sponge. So I'll start by disconnecting the water line here, water supply. And I sponged up all the excess water in the back here. Just remove whatever's left in that tube there. All right, now I have to remove those 3 bolts. So there's the nut and the washer. Those look perfectly reusable. All right, so these are the bolts that I removed the nuts from. And you don't have to work these through, but that's what it looks like. And you can see the gasket there. It's It is discoloring. You can see there it's deteriorating. All right, so let me remove this tank here. Just lift it off carefully. And put it upside down. Okay. So this is the other side there of the drain. And there's the two remaining bolts. Hopefully there's a replacement for this. Oh, and there's the nut. It's going to be a little loose. There's another gasket. Have to replace that. And that will allow that valve, drain valve, to come out. Flush valve. Let's get this terminology correct. So, yeah, that just comes out. Take this tube off, take the chain off. That's connecting the flapper. There it is. So this here is, oh yeah, it's just turning to mush. So that's why that needs to be replaced. There's the flapper. So you buy this, I think you buy the whole assembly like this. So it's off to Home Depot, I guess. Get some parts. Stay tuned. Alright, I just got back from Home Depot. This is a Kohler brand toilet. So this is the sponge gasket, I guess, that is used with this. And it shows you how to hook it up. And this is the adjustable universal flush valve with flapper. For a grand total of $23.33. So that's not bad. I wonder what a plumber would charge. So let me start putting this back together. I already cleaned up around the opening there, and I cleaned up the bottom of the reservoir. That's what I'm calling it. Right there. This comes with its own bolts, a little bit different than the metal ones, all metal. So let's open this up. And follow these directions. So this just only goes one way. You can tell it's a lot more flexible. And this is what seals the opening when you put the back bowl reservoir here on the back of the bowl. So these go through, pretty easy fit. Like that. And then these come through from inside. Alright, so here's the overflow or the flush valve. And I don't have the flapper hooked up. So I think they want you to use this because it's sort of like Teflon. So when you put this plastic nut on that comes with the flush valve, it'll turn easier than being up against the rubber. Alright, so I have that position there, and then this fill tube here will go in to that opening. Alright, I'm just going to hand tighten this and let it compress, and then see if I can tighten it a little bit more in a minute. Okay, now I can put the top part here back on. Alright, now I need to put these 3 bolts in from inside. And then these 3 nuts and 3 washers. Alright, so now I just need to put this flapper back on, which is like really flexible. Looks like there's an adjustment here for the fill, I guess. So you can adjust the hook for some, take up some slack here. Alright, so I've got that adjusted. A little bit of slack in the chain there, but I just need to hook up the water line now and see if it works and doesn't leak. Alright, so the fill valve hasn't turned on intermittently, and I just figured out by reading the package, of course, that the flap there has an adjustment for using less water or more water to flush. Somehow when you make that adjustment, it determines how much standing water is going to be left before the flap is able to close. So I don't know if that adjusts the buoyancy, or I don't know how that works, but I just put it sort of in the center there. And so it leaves a lot more in the bowl, in the reservoir, and still was able to flush. So it's a water saving feature. Pretty good. And there's no leaks. So that's pretty much should be the last time I need to do any work on this toilet here. So I hope you found this helpful. If you have a problem like that, it's really not that difficult. And it cost a total of $23.33 and my time. I'm sure it would cost over $100 for a plumber. So thanks for watching.